All right, students, this is the extension activity for Autocracy. You're going to be looking at the theory, you've just learned about the theory, and you're going to look at how that is actually applied to the reality. So now that you've had some understanding of the theoretical aspects of autocracy and its major forms, let's see how it links up. So in this activity, we'll be comparing and contrasting how the theory and reality line up for two autocrats. We're going to look at Liu Bang and Wu Di. These are two autocrats from the Han Dynasty. Before we start, let's take a minute to write down a clear definition of autocrat using 1 to 2 sentences. So now that you guys have done the Quizlet and you're experts, you should be able to write down a couple, 1 or 2 sentences to describe what is autocracy. Let's keep this in mind as we move forward, because we will want to apply our knowledge, our theoretical knowledge of autocracy, to how it actually exists in the world. Remember, defining features. A theoretical autocracy, a single ruler with absolute power, okay, absolutism. The leader is born into or takes power or claims divine right to rule. So we talked about monarchy, we talked about dictatorship, we talked about theocracy. Common people don't have a say in the government unless the autocrat says so. And I just put these terms out to remind you. Absolutism, which is an essential concept when we talk about autocracy, but the associated but not always inherent concepts are monarchy, dictatorship, theocracy, fascism, totalitarianism, tyranny, repression, and authoritarian. So you can take some time to look through those later if you want to look back through those slides. Chinese dynasties overview. Chinese dynasties were considered monarchies. They had mostly emperors, but there were occasionally empresses in these dynasties. And a dynasty would end if the family ran out of successors or was overthrown. Remember the difference between empire, a political entity, and dynasty is the ruling family or the family line. Oops. It's a sequence of rulers from the same family. So there's the definition there for you. All right, so let's take a look. The Han Dynasty was an important dynasty for a lot of reasons, which you'll learn about. But it really was a height in Chinese history, a cultural height. A lot of things happened that are important during this dynasty. So let's take a deeper look. I'm just going to leave it here for a second. I want you to look at the changing boundaries of these dynasties over time. So you can see the Han there. But then as we move further, you see the geography as it changes. And eventually, it will lead us to modern day China. There we go. All right. Let's take a moment to look at the territory the Han Dynasty covered. Compare its border to the current borders of modern China as well as Korea. If you can see Korea over here, at one time or during the Han Dynasty, it was actually part of the empire. And then here you can also see China, the Great Wall of China. Set up a T-chart like this. We're going to learn about Liu Bang now and Wu Di. So you'll just want to take some notes for each of these people as we go through it. Liu Bang. Liu Bang's rise to power. He ruled from 202 to 195 BCE. You don't need to write all this down. This is really just background information right here. He was born a Han peasant. You could write down he was a peasant, right? He was born a peasant. And so he didn't start, right, as a high-ranking person. But he ended up gaining popular support by really rebelling against the brutal laws at the time under the Qin dynasty. And he rebelled against the Qin, and he they fought against with his comrade Qing Yu, a true rebel general. They fought alongside each other to conquer the Qin, which they did in 206 BCE. But what happened? From 206 to 202, Liu Bang fought his former ally. They ended up having infighting between each other for power. And during the war, Liu Bang brought many of the 18 territories under his control. And after years of fighting, both leaders agreed to divide the country, making it half Chu and half Han. However, Liu Bang went back on his word and invaded Cheng Yu's armies. Dishonored by defeat, Cheng Yu committed suicide. With no rival in 202 BCE, Liu Bang established the Han Dynasty and was proclaimed emperor. And that is what kind of autocrat would that be? I'll be curious what your thoughts are. So, here are some things you do really want to take notes in the T-chart. Bang modified the Qin legalist system and allowed the guilty to pay fines rather than be subjected to harsh punishments. He lowered taxes and ended corvée. Corvée is unpaid labor or slavery, where the government made certain classes of people, such as peasants, work on public projects, like you can see in the picture here, the Great Wall. He granted freedom to those who had sold themselves into slavery to avoid hunger. Okay, so try to take a few notes on these items. And here are some other things that he did. He established regional kingdoms, so he actually decentralized the government power. He had 9 brothers and sons and 150 important followers that he gave status, noble status to. He decentralized the government into 3 major divisions. Okay, he provided a bureaucratic structure with tax collection, army, and government officials. He made peace with enemies to the north by bribing them with textiles, wine, and princesses. Yes. And so these are some important ones. Establishing regional kingdoms, so giving power to his subject, some of his subjects, because it would be followers and his family. He decentralized the government so that it was able to more effectively handle certain things. And he made peace with people to the north. Wu Di. So now you'll be on the right side of your T-chart. Okay, he ruled for 54 years. He gained a position as emperor at age 15. He inherited it as the oldest son. Okay, so you could say Liu Bang, right? He was able to gain it through military power, and he didn't come from a family line that would allow him to rule, whereas Wu Di did. Early on, he accomplished little due to his youth and the power and influence of relatives and court officials. Specifically, the death of his grandmother, who had great power in the court, and birth of his first child, he was able to secure power and began making reforms. So because he was able to establish someone else in his lineage, he was also able to get power, and he had to free himself of his grandmother's power. So once that happened, you learn a little more about where he went with that. Okay, so Wu Di actually means the martial emperor, the military emperor. Throughout his reign, he secured power through military conquest. In 133 BCE, he launched attacks on enemies to the north, China's principal threat. And in 101 BCE, Wu Di's troops had extended Chinese control in all directions. So he expanded the empire. He sought to expand it through military means. If we look here at the expansion from Liu Bang's time, okay, to where he actually started to expand things. So he went further. He took the empire much further. Vietnam, Korea, okay, and for a while the Chang Yu. If I said that wrong, sorry. Woody's legacy. He made Confucianism the state doctrine. Okay, this is something you'd want to write down. And this really became the basis for a lot of Chinese law, order, roles, responsibilities. He wrote morality books, promoted loyalty to government, keeping one's place in society, and respect to parents. Remember all these core values of Confucianism. He centralized the government, so he went in the opposite direction. Fewer people with power and expanded the empire, like Rome. He used harsh punishments to control conquered territories. He used castrated men as close advisors, eunuchs, because they could not produce a family to threaten his authority. And he created a civil service system with examinations open to all classes. Now that's pretty cool, and created a university system also to educate men to run government. And so we think about that long tradition of study and knowledge in Chinese history. He's really responsible for creating a system where it didn't matter where you came from, if you were able to pretty rigorous testing. I read a book in college called Chinese Examination Hell from early times, but this system allowed people that were able to move up and didn't have to be born into power. Let's see. They expanded roads and canal systems, so he did work on improvement on their infrastructure. He established government monopolies on the production of iron and salt. He imposed taxes on these resources to fund his growing empire. And he also created, really, it was like I was saying, the Han Dynasty, a lot of literature, poetry, painting, and music were supported under his state, and it grew under his reign. So a lot of things flourished too. Your goal now is to answer these 3 questions. You may need to go back to the slides to make sure you understand everything that we just went over. But I want you to consider the first Han Emperor Liu Bang. What ways did he fit the mold of an autocrat, as theory defines it, and what ways did he not? The second question goes for Wu Di. How did he fit the mold, and what ways did he not? And then lastly, why do you think the theory doesn't always match reality? In other words, why might it be difficult for anyone to be a pure autocrat or any autocracy to fit the definition perfectly? All right. Hope that helped a little bit, and look forward to seeing your responses.